Commander Thessa Vorix had served the Valdrix Empire for 40 years. She had seen pirates and rebels. She had watched enemy fleets burn in the void. She had never felt fear during any of those moments. But today, standing on the bridge of her patrol cruiser, she felt something cold crawling up her spine. "Run the scan again," she ordered. The sensor officer, a young male named Keth, looked at her with confusion. "Commander, I have already run it 3 times. The results are the same." "Then run it a 4th time." Keth obeyed. His fingers moved across the console. The holographic display flickered and reformed. The numbers did not change. 12 kilometers long. Energy output exceeding anything in Imperial records. Hull composition unknown. Origin point traced to a quarantine system on the far edge of explored space. Solter. Vorix felt her throat tighten. "That is not possible." "Commander," Keth asked. She did not answer him. Instead, she walked closer to the main view screen. The ship was still too far away to see with optical sensors. It was just a blip on their instruments. But that blip was moving toward the galactic core at a steady pace. It was not running. It was not hiding. It was simply coming. "Contact Imperial Command," Vorix said. "Priority 1 transmission." The communications officer looked up from her station. "Priority 1, Commander? That requires confirmation of an existential threat to the Empire." Vorix turned to face her crew. They were all looking at her now. 20 officers and crew members who had served under her for years. They trusted her judgment. They needed her to be calm. She was not calm. "The origin point is Sul," she said. "The human homeworld." Silence fell over the bridge. Everyone knew about humanity. Every child in the Empire learned about them in school. They were a failed species. 2 centuries ago, they had attempted to expand beyond their single planet. They had built crude ships and established 3 small colonies. Then everything had fallen apart. Their colonies had failed due to disease, environmental problems, and their own incompetence. Their species had retreated back to Earth and never returned to space. They were listed in Imperial records as a pre-spaceflight civilization, confined to their homeworld and no longer relevant to galactic affairs. But here was a ship, a massive ship, coming from their direction. "That cannot be human," Keth said. "Humans do not have spaceflight capability." "According to our records," Vorix replied. "According to what we have been told." She let those words hang in the air. Her crew understood what she was suggesting. Imperial records could be wrong. Imperial records could be lies. "Send the priority 1 transmission," she ordered again. "Now." The communications officer obeyed without further argument. While they waited for a response, Vorix ordered her ship to follow the unknown vessel at maximum safe distance. She kept her weapons powered down. Something in her gut told her that shooting at this thing would be a very bad idea. Hours passed. The unknown ship continued on its course. It did not speed up or slow down. It did not change direction. It moved like a creature that had no predators, like something that feared nothing in its path. More Valdrix ships arrived to join the observation. 3 cruisers, 2 destroyers, and a light carrier. A small fleet gathered to watch the impossible visitor. None of them moved to intercept. None of them powered weapons. They simply followed and watched. Finally, the response came from Imperial Command. Vorix read it on her private display and felt her blood run cold. "Confirmed human vessel. Do not engage. Do not approach. Maintain observation only. Full battle fleet being mobilized. Emperor has been informed." The Emperor himself. This was not a drill. This was not a mistake. Someone at the highest levels of power knew something about this ship. Someone was afraid. "Commander," the communications officer called out. "The unknown vessel is responding to our hails." Vorix spun around. "What? We have been hailing them for hours with no response. They are responding now. Audio and visual. Put it on screen." The main view screen flickered. Static filled the image for a moment. Then it cleared, and Vorix saw something that would stay with her for the rest of her life. A human sat in a command chair. Female, based on Imperial xenobiology records. She had dark skin and hair that was turning gray at the edges. Her eyes were brown and very calm. She wore a uniform that was simple and practical, dark blue with silver markings on the shoulders. Behind her, Vorix could see a bridge filled with activity. Other humans moved between stations, working with quiet efficiency. The human woman spoke. Her voice was clear and steady. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the HSS Remembrance. We acknowledge your presence. We have no hostile intentions toward your patrol fleet. Please maintain your current distance and do not attempt to interfere with our course." Vorax stepped forward. "This is Commander Thessa Vorax of the Valdrix Imperial Navy. You are entering sovereign Imperial space without authorization. Please state your purpose and destination." The human captain tilted her head slightly. Something flickered in her eyes. It might have been sadness. It might have been anger. Vorax could not tell. "Our purpose will become clear soon enough," Captain Vasquez said. "Our destination is Valdrix Prime." Vorax felt her heart skip a beat. The Imperial homeworld, the seat of the Emperor, the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. "That is not possible," Vorax said. "No unauthorized vessel can approach Valdrix Prime. You will be destroyed." The human captain smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that others did not. "Commander Vorax," she said, "your empire has told you many things about my species. You have been told that we failed, that we were too weak to survive in space, that we retreated to our homeworld and gave up." She leaned forward in her chair. "You were lied to." The transmission ended. The screen went dark. Vorax stood frozen in place, her mind racing. "Commander," Keth said, his voice shaking, "the vessel is accelerating. It is increasing speed toward the core worlds." "Match their speed," Vorax ordered. "Stay with them. Do not lose visual contact. Commander, at this acceleration, they will reach Valdrix Prime in 3 days." 3 days. The Imperial homeworld had defensive fleets. It had orbital stations and planetary shields. It had weapons capable of cracking moons. But Vorax had seen the readings on that ship. She had seen its size, its power output, its impossible existence. 3 days might not be enough. She opened a channel to the other ships in her small fleet. "All vessels, this is Commander Vorax. We are to maintain pursuit and observation. No one fires unless fired upon. Our job is to watch and report. Whatever this is, whatever is coming, command needs to know everything." Acknowledgements came back from the other captains. Their voices were tense. They had all seen the same readings. They had all heard the same transmission. Vorax turned back to the view screen. The human ship was now visible to optical sensors. It was beautiful in a terrible way. Long and sleek, with lines that suggested both elegance and violence. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, and it moved through space like a predator that had finally come out of hiding. "Commander," the communications officer said quietly, "I have been researching the name. HSS Remembrance. And remembrance means the act of remembering, of not forgetting something important." Vorax nodded slowly. "They remember something, something that happened 200 years ago." "What happened 200 years ago, Commander?" Vorax did not answer. She did not know. But she suspected that someone in the Empire knew exactly what had happened. And she suspected that whatever it was, the bill was about to come due. The remembrance continued on its course. The small Valdrix fleet followed behind like nervous animals trailing a larger beast. And somewhere ahead, on the throne world of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, powerful beings were about to learn that some debts cannot be forgotten. The humans were coming, and they remembered everything. The Imperial Palace on Valdrix Prime was the largest structure ever built by any species in the galaxy. It covered an area the size of a small city and reached into the clouds. For 3,000 years, emperors had ruled from its throne room. Wars had been started and ended within its walls. The fate of billions had been decided in its council chambers. Today, Emperor Kalen III sat on his throne and felt something he had never felt before. He felt small. "Show me again," he commanded. The holographic display in the center of the throne room flickered to life. The image of the human battleship appeared, rotating slowly. Numbers and data streams surrounded it, showing its dimensions, its energy output, its estimated weapons capability. 12 kilometers long. Power generation exceeding the entire Imperial home fleet combined. Weapon systems that their best analysts could not identify. Hull armor of unknown composition that seemed to absorb sensor beams rather than reflect them. "This is impossible," said Admiral Venn, commander of the home fleet. Humans are a primitive species. They failed at space colonization. They have been confined to their homeworld for 2 centuries. And yet, Emperor Kalen said quietly, here they are. He looked around the throne room at his gathered advisors. Military commanders, intelligence chiefs, diplomatic officials, the most powerful beings in the empire, and they all looked afraid. I want the truth, the emperor said, not what is in our public records. I want to know what really happened 200 years ago. Someone in this room knows. Someone has always known. Silence fell over the chamber. The advisors looked at each other. No one spoke. Then a voice came from the back of the room. It was old and tired. I know. The crowd parted. Admiral Korath stepped forward. He was ancient by Valdric standards, over 300 years old. His scales had faded from bright green to dull gray. His eyes were clouded with age, but his mind was still sharp, and his memory was still clear. I was there, Korath said. I was a young officer during the operation. Emperor Kalen leaned forward. What operation? Korath walked slowly to the center of the room. He looked at the holographic image of the human ship for a long moment. Then he began to speak. 2 centuries ago, humans achieved faster than light travel. They were a young species, barely 10,000 years old, but they learned quickly, too quickly. In just 50 years, they went from their first space flights to building colony ships. He paused, gathering his thoughts. They established 3 colonies, New Eden, Nova Terra, and Hope's Landing. Small worlds, but growing fast. Our analysts studied them. They calculated human expansion rates. They projected that within 500 years, humans would outnumber every other species in the galaxy combined. Admiral Venn made a dismissive sound. That is ridiculous. No species expands that quickly. Humans do, Korath said. They breed faster than us. They adapt faster than us. They learn faster than us. Our analysts called them the greatest threat the Empire had ever faced. Not because they were hostile, they were actually quite friendly, but because they would simply outgrow us. In 1,000 years, the galaxy would be theirs, and we would be a minority in our own space. Emperor Kalen's eyes narrowed. So what did we do? Korath closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were filled with pain. We destroyed them. The throne room erupted in noise. Advisors shouted questions and denials. Admiral Venn looked sick. The Emperor raised his hand and silence returned. Explain, Kalen commanded. It was called Operation Silent Night, Korath said. The official record says the human colonies failed due to disease and environmental problems. That is a lie. We sent 3 battle fleets, 1 for each colony. We attacked without warning. We destroyed their orbital stations first, then their ships, then their ground settlements. We killed everyone. Men, women, children. 847,000 humans died in a single night. His voice cracked. I was on the ship that hit Hope's Landing. It was a farming colony. They had no weapons. They had no defenses. They sent out emergency broadcasts begging for mercy. We ignored them. We burned their cities from orbit. We sent troops to hunt down the survivors. We made sure no one escaped to tell the truth. But someone did escape, Emperor Kalen said. Korath nodded. We thought we got everyone. But humans are clever. Some of them must have fled before we arrived. They must have had warning somehow. They ran into deep space, into regions we had not mapped. We searched for decades but found nothing. Eventually, we declared the operation a complete success. We altered the records. We told everyone that humans had failed on their own. We quarantined their homeworld and erased them from galactic awareness. He turned to face the holographic image of the remembrance. We thought they were gone. We were wrong. They have been out there for 200 years, building, preparing, waiting. Emperor Kalen sat back on his throne. His mind was racing. 2 centuries of hidden development. 2 centuries of focused purpose. What could a species like humanity accomplish in that time? The ship arrives in 3 days, Admiral Venn said. We need to prepare our defenses. The home fleet is 800 warships. We have orbital stations. We have planetary shields. We can stop one ship, no matter how large. Can we? Korath asked. Look at that vessel. Look at its power readings. That ship was built by a civilization that has had 200 years to do nothing but prepare for this moment. Every resource, every mind, every effort focused on a single goal. Do you really think they built only one? The question hung in the air. No one had an answer. We should attempt diplomacy, the diplomatic chief suggested. Perhaps they can be reasoned with. Perhaps they want compensation, territory, an apology. An apology, Korath repeated. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. We murdered almost 1 million of their people. We tried to wipe out their entire species. We lied about it for 2 centuries. Do you think an apology will fix that? Then what do you suggest? Emperor Kalen asked. Korath was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. I suggest we prepare for the possibility that we are about to face judgment, not from some divine being, from the children and grandchildren of the people we killed. They have had 200 years to remember what we did, 200 years to plan their response. Whatever is coming, we have earned it. The throne room fell silent. The holographic image of the remembrance continued to rotate slowly. It seemed to be watching them, waiting. Emperor Kalen made his decision. Mobilize the full home fleet, activate all defensive systems, send messages to every vassal species and allied world. I want every ship that can fight gathered at Valdrix Prime within 2 days. He paused. And prepare a diplomatic team. We will try to talk. We will try to negotiate. But if talking fails, we will fight. Admiral Venn nodded. And if fighting fails? The Emperor did not answer. He did not have an answer. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Valdrix Empire faced an enemy that might actually be able to destroy them. The humans were coming, and they remembered everything that had been done to them. As the advisors hurried to carry out their orders, old Admiral Korath remained standing in the center of the throne room. He stared at the image of the human ship. In his mind, he heard the screams of the colonists at Hope's Landing. He heard their pleas for mercy. He saw the faces of children looking up at the sky as death rained down on them. For 200 years, he had tried to forget. He had buried the memories under duty and time, but they had never really gone away, and now the past was coming back. I am sorry, he whispered to the image of the ship. I am so sorry. The remembrance did not respond. It did not need to. Its very existence was response enough. The debt was about to be collected. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the HSS Remembrance and watched the stars. She had been standing here for an hour, alone with her thoughts. In 2 days, they would reach Valdrix Prime. In 2 days, 200 years of preparation would finally come to their end. She was 57 years old. Her grandmother had been 3 years old when she escaped the massacre at New Eden. Her grandmother had been the only survivor of her family. She had grown up on the hidden world of New Terra, raised by strangers who had also lost everything. She had spent her entire life telling stories about the old colonies, about the people who had died, about the empire that had killed them. Elena's mother had grown up on those stories. Elena had grown up on them too. Every child on New Terra knew the names of the 3 lost colonies. Every child knew what had happened. Every child was taught to remember, and every child was taught that one day they would go back. The door behind her opened. Commander James Chen walked in. He was her second in command, a quiet man with steady hands and a calm mind. He had been with her for 20 years. Captain, he said, the fleet commanders are asking for a final briefing. Elena turned away from the stars. Have all the ships reported in? All 4,217 vessels are in position. They are waiting for your signal. 4,000 ships, built in secret over 200 years, hidden in the depths of uncharted space while humanity grew strong again. The Valdrix Empire thought they were facing one battleship. They had no idea what was actually coming. Signal them to hold position until we reach the capital, Elena said. We do this together, or we do not do it at all. Understood, Captain. Chen hesitated at the door. Elena looked at him. Something on your mind, James? He was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. My great-grandfather was on Hope's Landing. He was a teacher. He taught children how to read. He had a wife and 2 sons. When the Valdrix ships came, he put his family in a shelter and went out to help others. He never came back. His wife and 1 son made it onto the escape ships. My grandfather was that son. Elena nodded. She had heard similar stories 1,000 times. Everyone on New Terra had one. "Why are you telling me this now?" she asked. "Because in 2 days we will face the people who killed him. We will have the power to do to them what they did to us. We could burn their cities. We could kill their children. We could make them feel exactly what our ancestors felt." He looked at her directly. "I want to know that we are not going to do that." Elena walked over to him. She put her hand on his shoulder. "James, do you know why this ship is called the Remembrance? To remember what was done to us. Yes, but also to remember who we are. We are not killers. We are not monsters. The Valdrix Empire tried to destroy us because they were afraid of what we might become. They saw our potential and chose to end us rather than share the galaxy with us." She stepped back. "If we go to them with fire and death, we prove them right. We become the monsters they feared. We lose everything that makes us human. Our ancestors did not survive and struggle for 200 years just so we could become another empire built on blood." "Then what are we going to do?" Chen asked. Elena smiled. It was a sad smile, but there was hope in it. "We are going to give them a choice. The same choice they never gave us." She walked past him toward the door. "Come, let us talk to the fleet." The main bridge of the Remembrance was a massive room filled with stations and screens. 200 crew members worked here, monitoring every system on the ship. When Elena entered, they all stood at attention. "At ease," she said. She walked to the central command platform and activated the fleet-wide communication system. "This is Captain Vasquez to all vessels. In 2 days, we will arrive at Valdrix Prime. Many of you have waited your entire lives for this moment. Your parents waited. Your grandparents waited. For 200 years, we have prepared. Now the time has come." She paused to let her words sink in. "You all know what the Valdrix Empire did to our ancestors. You have seen the records. You have heard the testimonies. 847,000 humans were murdered because an empire feared what we might become. They tried to erase us from the galaxy. They failed." Her voice grew stronger. "We could destroy them. We have the power. 4,000 ships against their 800. Technology they cannot match. Weapons they cannot stop. We could burn their worlds the way they burned ours. We could make them suffer the way our people suffered." She took a breath. "We will not." Silence across the fleet. Millions of humans listening. "We are not here for revenge. We are here for justice. There is a difference. Revenge means making them feel pain because we felt pain. Justice means holding them accountable and making sure this never happens again. Revenge would make us like them. Justice will make us better than them. Our ancestors did not hide in the depths of space just to create another cruel empire. They survived because they believed humanity was worth saving. They believed that one day their children would return and build something better, something that the galaxy has never seen, a civilization based on truth, not lies, on cooperation, not conquest, on memory, not forgetting." She stood tall. "When we arrive at Valdrix Prime, we will show them what humanity has become. We will show them our strength, but more importantly, we will show them our mercy. We will give them a chance to confess, to change, to join us in building a better future. If they refuse, we will still not destroy them. We will contain them. We will watch them. And we will wait until they are ready to choose differently. This is the human way. We remember our dead, but we do not become slaves to our anger. We honor their memory by becoming the best version of ourselves. That is why we call this ship the Remembrance. Not just to remember the past, but to remember who we are meant to be." She raised her hand in salute. "All ships hold position until my signal. When we move as one. Not as conquerors, not as avengers, as humans. Vasquez out." The communication ended. The bridge crew returned to their work. But something had changed. There was a feeling in the air, a sense of purpose that went beyond war. Commander Chen stepped up beside her. "That was a good speech," he said. "It was not a speech," Elena replied. "It was a promise. To them, to our ancestors, and to ourselves." She looked at the view screen showing the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, the Valdrix Empire was gathering its fleets. They were preparing for a battle they thought they understood. They expected an enemy filled with rage and hunger for destruction. They were going to meet something very different. 2 more days, Chen said. Elena nodded. 2 more days, and then the galaxy changes forever. She sat down in her command chair and began reviewing the final approach plans. Around her, the crew of the Remembrance worked with calm efficiency. They had waited their whole lives for this. They had trained for it. They had dreamed about it. And when the moment came, they would show the galaxy what humanity truly was. Not conquerors, not victims. Something new. Something that had been forged in loss and hardened by memory and tempered by hope. The Valdrix Empire was about to learn a lesson that no amount of military power could teach them. True strength was not about what you could destroy. It was about what you could build. The Valdrix home fleet hung in space above their capital world like a wall of steel and fire. 812 warships, dreadnoughts, battlecruisers, destroyers, carriers, the largest concentration of military power in the history of the galaxy. Emperor Kalen had called in every debt, every alliance, every obligation. Every ship that could fight was here, and it was not enough. Admiral Venn stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Fist, and watched the human vessel approach. The Remembrance had slowed as it entered the system. It was not rushing. It was not hiding. It moved with the confidence of something that had no reason to fear. All weapons locked on target, his tactical officer reported. We can fire on your command. Venn nodded but did not give the order. Something was wrong. The human ship was powerful, but it was still just one vessel. Why would they send one ship against an entire empire? The answer came before he could think further. Admiral, the sensor officer shouted, massive energy readings across the system. Ships are emerging from slip space. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. The tactical display exploded with new contacts. They came from everywhere. From above the orbital plane, from below, from behind the moons of the outer planets, from hidden positions in the asteroid fields. Ships of every size, from small frigates to vessels that rivaled the Remembrance itself. 4,217 human warships. The entire Valdrix fleet was surrounded. Admiral Venn felt his legs go weak. He grabbed the railing of his command platform to stay standing. Around him, his crew was frozen with shock. They had prepared to fight one ship. Now they faced an armada that outnumbered them 5-1. Sir, the communications officer said, her voice shaking, the human flagship is hailing us. Venn took a deep breath. He straightened his uniform. If this was the end, he would face it with dignity. Put it through. The main screen flickered. Captain Elena Vasquez appeared. She looked calm, almost peaceful. Admiral Venn, she said, I am Captain Vasquez of the HSS Remembrance. As you can see, we have brought company. I can see that, Venn replied. His voice was steadier than he felt. You have us surrounded. We do. You could destroy our entire fleet. We could. Venn waited for the killing blow, the order to fire, the end of everything, but it did not come. Why do you hesitate, he asked. Vasquez leaned forward in her chair. Because destruction is not why we came here. We came here to deliver a message and to offer a choice. She gestured, and the image on the screen changed. It showed a list of names, thousands of names scrolling endlessly across the display. 847,000 humans died in Operation Silent Night, Vasquez said. These are their names. Every man, woman, and child who was murdered by your empire 200 years ago. We have preserved every name, every face, every story. We have not forgotten a single one. The names kept scrolling. Venn watched them pass. He thought about old Admiral Korath's confession. He thought about the colonies that had been burned. He thought about the lies that had been told for 2 centuries. What do you want? He asked. I want to speak with Admiral Korath. Alone. On my ship. Venn blinked in surprise. Korath? Why him? Because he was there. Because he remembers what he did. And because what happens next depends on whether your empire can face the truth of its past. Venn considered refusing. But he looked at the tactical display showing thousands of human ships surrounding his fleet. He thought about his crew, his family on the planet below, everyone who would die if this became a battle. I will contact the Emperor, he said. Do that. Korath has 1 hour to reach our ship. After that, we will make our own decisions. The transmission ended. 1 hour later, a single shuttle crossed the space between the fleets. Admiral Korath sat alone in the passenger compartment. He had not brought guards or weapons. He had not even brought aides. He had simply walked onto the shuttle and told the pilot to take him to the human ship. He was 300 years old. He had lived long enough. If this was how it ended, at least it would end with honesty. The shuttle docked with the remembrance. When the airlock opened, Korath stepped out and found himself in a corridor lined with photographs. Faces looked down at him from every wall. Human faces, old and young, men and women, children and elderly. Each photograph had a name beneath it. He walked slowly, looking at each face. These were the dead, the people his fleet had killed 2 centuries ago, the people whose screams still echoed in his nightmares. A human officer appeared and gestured for him to follow. They walked through more corridors, more photographs, more names. The ship seemed to be built as a memorial to the dead. Finally, they reached a large chamber at the heart of the vessel. The walls were covered with more photographs and personal items. A child's toy, a wedding ring, a handwritten letter. In the center of the room, a piece of metal hull plating was mounted on a pedestal. It was scorched and bent. Words were engraved on a plaque beneath it. Hull fragment from the colony transport Morning Star, destroyed with all hands at New Eden. 2,247 passengers, 847 were children. Korath stood before the fragment and felt tears running down his face. He had not cried in 200 years. He had thought he was too old for tears. "Do you remember the Morning Star?" He turned. Captain Vasquez stood in the doorway. She walked into the room and stood beside him. "I remember," Korath whispered. "It was trying to flee. It had no weapons. We destroyed it anyway. My commander said there could be no witnesses. My grandmother was on that ship. She was 3 years old. Her parents put her in an escape pod just before the end. She was the only survivor." Korath closed his eyes. "I am sorry. I know those words mean nothing. But I am sorry." "You are right," Vasquez said. "Words mean nothing, but actions do." She walked to the center of the room and faced him. "Admiral Korath, I am going to tell you what we want. Then you are going to return to your emperor and deliver our terms. What happens next depends on how your empire responds." Korath wiped his face and stood straighter. "Tell me. We want the truth. Full public disclosure of what happened to our colonies. Every record, every order, every piece of evidence. Broadcast to every world in your empire. That would cause chaos. The vassal species would revolt. The empire would collapse. Perhaps. That is not our concern. The truth is our concern," she continued. "We want acknowledgement. Your emperor will personally confess to the crimes of his predecessors. He will speak the names of our dead. He will admit that the Valdrix Empire committed genocide against humanity. He will never agree to that. Then we will stay here until he does. Our fleet is not going anywhere. We have waited 200 years. We can wait longer." Vasquez walked closer to him. "Finally, we want transformation. The imperial military hierarchy that planned and executed Operation Silent Night will be dissolved. A new multi-species council will be formed to oversee reparations and ensure this never happens again. Your empire will change, Admiral. It will become something better, or it will become nothing at all." Korath shook his head. "You are asking us to destroy ourselves." "No, we are asking you to save yourselves. The empire you have built is based on lies and murder. It cannot last. Sooner or later, the truth always comes out. The question is whether you face it now, with our help, or later alone." She stepped back. "You asked me why I wanted to speak with you. It is because you remember. You carry the guilt of what you did. I see it in your eyes. I hear it in your voice. You have been waiting for this day for 200 years. She was right. Korath had known it from the moment he saw the human ship. Part of him had been waiting for judgment. Part of him had wanted it. "What if I refuse to deliver your message?" he asked. "Then I will broadcast it myself. But I would rather your empire hear it from one of their own. It will mean more that way. It will give them a chance to choose for themselves." Korath looked around the memorial chamber. All those faces, all those names, all those lives that had been cut short because an empire was afraid. "We could have been allies," he said quietly. "We could have worked together, built something great. Yes, Vasquez agreed. You could have. Instead, you chose fear and murder. But that choice was made by people who are long dead. The people alive today can make a different choice. She held out her hand. Go back to your emperor. Tell him what I have told you. Give your empire one chance to do the right thing. That is more than you gave us. Korath took her hand. Her grip was firm but not cruel. She did not hate him. He could see that now. She simply wanted justice. I will deliver your message, he said. I cannot promise how they will respond. I know, but the choice is theirs. That is the point. She released his hand and gestured toward the door. Your shuttle is waiting. You have 1 hour to reach the Imperial Palace. After that, we make the broadcast ourselves. Korath walked toward the door. At the threshold, he stopped and looked back. For what it is worth, Captain, I hope they choose wisely. I hope we can become something better. Vasquez nodded. So do I, Admiral. So do I. Korath left the memorial chamber and walked back through the corridors of photographs and names. The dead watched him go. They did not accuse. They did not condemn. They simply waited, as they had waited for 200 years, for their story to finally be told. The imperial throne room had never been so quiet. Emperor Kalen III sat on his golden throne, surrounded by his advisors and generals. Admiral Korath stood before him, having just finished delivering the human demands. No one spoke. No one moved. The weight of the moment pressed down on everyone. Finally, General Thros stepped forward. He was the commander of the ground forces, a warrior who had won a dozen campaigns for the Empire. This is unacceptable, he growled. We are the Valdrix Empire. We do not surrender to anyone. We do not confess. We do not bow to lesser species. They have 4,000 ships, Admiral Venn replied. We have 800. The mathematics are clear. Then we die fighting. Better to die with honor than live with shame. Honor? Korath's voice was sharp. What honor is there in what we did? We murdered almost 1 million people. We killed children. We burned colonies that had no weapons. Where was our honor then? Thros turned on him with fury. You were part of that operation. You followed orders. Do not pretend you are better than the rest of us now. I am not better. I am guilty. We are all guilty. The entire empire is built on a lie, and that lie is now standing outside our windows with enough firepower to turn this planet to ash. Emperor Kalen raised his hand. Silence fell. Admiral Korath, you met with the human captain. You spoke with her. What did you see? Korath thought for a moment before answering. I saw a ship built as a memorial to the dead. I saw photographs of every person we killed. I saw children's toys and wedding rings preserved for 200 years. And I saw a woman who had every reason to hate us, but chose not to. She does not hate us? She wants justice. There is a difference. She told me that herself. The Emperor leaned back on his throne. His eyes were distant, calculating. If we refuse their demands, they will broadcast the truth themselves. Our vassal species will learn what we did. Many of them already suspect. Some of them have similar stories, worlds we conquered, peoples we suppressed. If the truth comes out without our acknowledgement, we look weak and dishonest. If we confess, we look weak as well, Thros argued. Perhaps, but there is a difference between weakness and humility. One loses respect, the other might gain it. The Emperor stood. He walked down the steps from his throne and stood in the center of the room, surrounded by his advisors. For 3,000 years, the Valdrix Empire has ruled through strength. We conquered. We dominated. We crushed anyone who opposed us. And what has it brought us? Vassal species who hate us, allies who fear us, and now an enemy who could destroy us but chooses to offer mercy instead. He looked around at the faces of his council. The humans had 200 years to become like us, 200 years to build an empire of revenge and hate. Instead, they built ships named Remembrance. They preserved the names of their dead instead of planning the deaths of our living. They came here with overwhelming force and asked only for the truth. He turned to face the window. Outside, the human fleet hung in space like a constellation of steel. What does that say about them? And what does it say about us? General Thros opened his mouth to argue, but the Emperor continued. I have made my decision. We will accept their terms. The throne room erupted in chaos. Generals shouted in protest. Advisors argued with each other. Only Korath remained silent, watching the Emperor with something like hope in his old eyes. Kalen raised his hand again. The room slowly quieted. We will release the records of Operation Silent Night. Every document, every order, every communication. The galaxy will know what we did. I will personally address all citizens and vassal species. I will confess the crimes of my predecessors and take responsibility for the empire they built. Your Majesty, Thros pleaded, this will destroy us. No. Continuing to build on lies will destroy us. This gives us a chance to build something new. He looked at Admiral Korath. Admiral, you will return to the human fleet. Tell Captain Vasquez that we accept her terms. Ask her to stand by while we prepare the broadcast. Korath bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. And Admiral, thank you for telling me the truth, for having the courage to face what you did. Korath nodded slowly. Then he turned and left the throne room to deliver the message. 6 hours later, Emperor Kalen III appeared on every screen in the galaxy. His face was broadcast to 1 trillion beings across thousands of worlds. Humans, Valdrix, and every other species watched as the most powerful ruler in known space began to speak. He spoke for 3 hours. He told the true history of humanity's colonies. He described Operation Silent Night in full detail. He read the names of the dead until his voice grew hoarse. He confessed the crimes of his empire and acknowledged the 2 centuries of lies. When he finished, there was silence across the galaxy. Then slowly reactions began to pour in. Some vassal species declared immediate independence. Others demanded reparations for their own grievances. The imperial economy destabilized as panic spread. Military units on distant worlds refused orders. For a moment, it seemed like the entire empire would collapse into chaos. But then something unexpected happened. Captain Vasquez broadcast her own message. She spoke to all the species who had suffered under Valdric's rule. She acknowledged their pain. She validated their anger. But she also offered something new. For 200 years, my people planned for this day. We built ships and weapons. We prepared for war. But we also prepared for peace. We designed a new system, a council of species working together as equals. No emperors, no vassals, no masters and slaves. Just civilizations cooperating for mutual benefit. The Valdrix Empire, as it was, is ending. But something new can rise from it. Not through more violence, not through revenge. Through cooperation, accountability, and growth. We invite every species to join us in building this new future. Humans will not rule it. We do not want to replace one empire with another. We want to create something the galaxy has never seen, a true community of equals. The response was not immediate. Trust takes time to build, especially after centuries of oppression. But over the following months, species began to respond. Old enemies sat down at the same tables. Former vassals negotiated as equals. The Valdrix Confederation emerged, a new government with human observers and multi-species oversight. 1 year after the confrontation at Valdrix Prime, Captain Elena Vasquez returned to New Terra, the hidden world where humanity had rebuilt itself. She stood before the Council of Elders, the descendants of those who had escaped the massacres, and delivered her final report. The mission is complete, she said. The truth has been told. The Empire has changed. The galaxy is healing. Elder Marcus Okonkwo, the oldest member of the council, looked at her with tears in his eyes. You did what our grandparents dreamed of. You brought justice without becoming monsters. We all did it together, Vasquez replied. Every human who worked for 200 years, every child who learned the names of the dead, every engineer who built the ships, every teacher who passed down the stories. This was not my victory. This was humanity's victory. She paused. But our work is not finished. Justice was just the beginning. Now we have to prove that the future we promised is possible. We have to show the galaxy that cooperation works, that trust can be rebuilt, that the cycle of violence can be broken. She looked around the council chamber. Our ancestors survived because they believed humanity was worth saving. They were right. But being worth saving is not enough. We have to be worth following, We have to lead by example. The Council voted unanimously to continue the work of building the new galactic order. Human ships spread across the former empire, not as conquerors but as partners. They helped rebuild destroyed worlds. They mediated disputes between species. They demonstrated day after day that strength and mercy could coexist. 5 years later, Elena Vasquez stood in the memorial chamber of the HSS Remembrance, now permanently stationed as a museum ship orbiting what had once been Valdric's Prime. The planet below had been renamed Accord, a symbol of the new era. An old woman walked into the chamber. She was 93 years old, one of the last survivors who had been alive during the original massacres. Her name was Maya Chen, and she had been a baby when her parents put her on an escape ship and never saw her again. She walked slowly to the hull fragment from the Morning Star. She touched the names engraved on the memorial wall. Tears ran down her face. "They did not die for nothing," she whispered. "All these years I wondered if our suffering had any meaning. Now I know." Vasquez stood beside her. "What meaning, Elder Maya?" The old woman turned to look at her. "We could have become monsters. After what was done to us, no one would have blamed us. But we chose differently. We chose to remember our dead by becoming something they would have been proud of. That is their legacy. That is what their sacrifice bought." She looked out the observation windows at the planet below. Cities sparkled in the night. Ships from a dozen species moved in peaceful orbits. A galaxy that had known nothing but empire and conquest was learning a new way. "They would have loved this," Maya said. "A future built on hope instead of hate. A galaxy united instead of divided." She smiled through her tears. "This is what humanity always could have been. This is what we finally became." Vasquez put her arm around the old woman's shoulders. Together they watched the lights of the new civilization spreading across the darkness. The Valdric's Empire had freaked out when they saw the human battleship. They had panicked when they learned its impossible origin. They had expected destruction and received mercy. They had feared monsters and met teachers. In the end, the humans had done something more powerful than conquering the galaxy. They had changed it, and they had proven that the best revenge was not destruction. It was becoming something better.